Hi, this is Misha, and here we have another Vulcan ship, our final one in our look, and this is the one I was waiting on to come in to do this series here. We began with the survey ship from Carbon Creek and Enterprise. This was a small 4, maybe 5-person ship, but it was an interstellar. I kind of liken it to, an Apollo craft, exploration, that kind of thing. Then we have the Vulcan transport. Then we have the Suurok class. And then we have the D'Kyr class. The Suurok was a science ship. The D'Kyr was a combat ship. And now we wrap things up with the TNG class. This is a merchant ship or passenger ship, a transport. And this is not from Enterprise, this is from the Next Generation. And while this ship was in service in the 23rd and 24th centuries, so making it the most modern of all the ships on the table, it's actually the oldest from when it was on screen. This ship was featured in Unification, also known as the 2-part episode with Spock in it from Season 5, early on in Season 5 of Next Generation. We also saw a variant of this ship in Deep Space Nine being used as a freighter. It has sometimes been said that this is an Apollo-class ship, but this has never been confirmed on screen, and there's really no evidence for this, and some evidence against it. Doesn't really matter. We know we're at 170 meters, give or take, maybe upwards of 200. So not a tiny ship. It's actually very thick, with a kind of a bulky midsection, so possibly has several decks or large cargo holds. We have the now classic Vulcan annular warp system. It looks like a ring, but this one's kind of mushed down. Chronologically, this would be an evolution, a development of the ring systems we saw in the Suurok and D'Kyr types. And it does. It looks like kind of the same, but more modernized, so a good job there. But in the real world, this ship came a good 10 years before those. So these were actually designed, being inspired by the TNG type here. By the era of Next Generation, this is considered an older design. In fact, the ones we saw, like the TNG, were retired around 2364. But obviously, since we saw a variant of this in service in Deep Space Nine, some are still being used as freighters. Why not? This is, or was used by the Vulcan merchant service, which sounds a little weird to think that Vulcans were into trading and retail, but that actually dates back to the original series, when Kirk refers to Spock when talking to Klingons as a Vulcan merchant, and the Klingons didn't scoff at the concept, meaning that the idea of a Vulcan merchant or trader was accepted and known in the galaxy at the time. So yeah, why not? In Unification, 3 of these ships carried 2,100 or so Romulan troops. We don't know how jam-packed they were here, but we can assume that this had the ability to carry at least 700 passengers, plus a crew, meaning it's relatively large, which makes sense considering how thick it is. I would imagine since they were troops, they weren't exactly in the height of luxury, but wasn't a long voyage. We only see it doing warp 1, but obviously it can, I'm sure, go much faster. It would really have to. It is a simplistic design, and those tend to often be my favorites. I like simple, direct, straightforward designs. It's just how my mind works, and this one really is. As much as the Suurok class is a pencil with the ring around it, this is essentially a trapezoid with kind of a mush down ring around it. It's basically a box. Of course, this was made at a time before CGI modeling, so this was a real physical model in Next Generation. That's why it appeared a few different times in a few different guises, including as a supposedly much smaller ship in Deep Space Nine as a Tosk ship. With physical models, they had to reuse as much as they could, but they at least took the time and trouble to give a Vulcan ship for that episode. As far as the Eagle Moss itself here, this just came out February of 2019 in the US, about a month earlier in England. It's a big model. It's larger than I expected, and it's got some real heft and weight to it. Obviously the warp ring is polymer, as we come to expect, but the central body is metal. The underside here is polymer and joined to the ring, but the whole top and sides are metal. It's got as much detailing as you would expect. It's got some offloading doors. And the engines in the back. This is one, when I heard it was coming out about 6 months ago, I was really excited to get. Kind of wondered why they waited so late in the collection to do it, but then again, you can't just do all your well-known ships at the beginning, and it's well-known to me, but I guess it's not maybe a ship that a lot of people recognize, but it is what it is. Mine fits on its stand a little loosely, but not so much that it's going to fall off. It hasn't ever fallen off on me. I mean, it fits fine, but it is a little loose because of how the clips work. So just one thing to be cognizant of. If you set this on a shelf, I'd put it behind, on like a second row. It actually sits pretty high, so you have room to kind of have something under it. But I definitely wouldn't put it on the edge of a high shelf, because it could slip off if vibrated or knocked. But it's not the most insecure in the world either. I'm really happy to have it. This is one, as I said, I was looking forward to, and I like the size and the weight. And I like that it was from an important episode. So, win-win. I would have to say, of all of these, just for the model, the D'Kyr is probably my favorite, but this is a close second. I really like the deceptively simple, and I like how this clearly shows the design lineage with the earlier ships from Enterprise, even though they were technically later. At least they looked at the T'Pau type. Even in the name, they gave homage to the original series, naming it after T'Pau from Amok Time. Also, T'Pau appeared as a much younger version in the Krashara, the Vulcan Forge episodes of Enterprise, so it ties a whole lot together. It also apparently blows up with one shot from a Romulan warbird, but I digress. You can look at the episode if you're not aware. I kind of wish I had a giant Romulan warbird, like a special edition XL warbird, to put alongside this. It would look really neat. As it is physically, it's about the same size as the Romulan warbird we have from Eagle Moss, but although in universe a much smaller ship. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at Vulcan ships. Again, 4 out of our 5 are from Enterprise, and then we have 1 from Next Generation. Really, the only Vulcan ship we're missing is the Suurok-class warp sled, as seen in the motion picture, Spock's transport, which we're never 100% sure if it's Vulcan or Federation, but I suppose it doesn't matter. We're not even sure for sure if the T'Pol here is strictly speaking Vulcan or Federation, or if it's an Apollo class or T'Pol class or anything else. Its registration is NSP 17,000 something, so not NCC, so it doesn't seem to be a Starfleet ship, at least. Really appreciate you tuning in. If you like this and you haven't, you might check out some of my videos on Romulan ships. Got a number of those. Also Klingon, Borg, and tons on Starfleet Federation. If you could, like, share, subscribe, and tune in again next time. This is Misha, and I will catch you very soon then.